I simulated the run of the Wyatt Sicks. We simulated them all the way to WrestleMania, so let's see if the Wyatt Sicks are successful or not. So the Wyatt Sicks debuted on June 17th. So we're gonna put the Wyatt Sicks' debut at Money in the Bank, which is in July. Nikki Cross is challenging Bayley for the Women's Championship. Nikki Cross ends up shocking everyone by winning the Women's Championship in her first match back, which is a pretty good start. And the main event is the Money in the Bank ladder match, with Uncle Howdy and Eric Rowan being in the match. Unfortunately for Uncle Howdy, Eric Rowan isn't able to help him long enough as Jey Uso knocks him off the ladder, and Jey Uso becomes Mr. Money in the Bank. Main event Jey Uso. We go to the Monday Night Raw and we see Joe Gacy is taking on Ivar in a singles match. Joe Gacy wins! Wow. And look, what the hell happened there? Look, Ivar turned into Joe Gacy. Is Ivar a part of the Wyatt Sicks now? Also in the main event, Jey Uso cashed in the Money in the Bank briefcase to get a world title shot, and he fails because Damian Priest retained. I swear, if this happens in real life, I'm gonna be so disappointed. And on SmackDown, Uncle Howdy picks up a win against Randy Orton. You might have lost the Money in the Bank, but beating Randy Orton? That gets you a title shot, doesn't it? We fast forward to SummerSlam. Uncle Howdy, he got a #1. Uncle Howdy became the #1 contender for the US title after beating Randy Orton. And he goes against Logan Paul, who knocks out Uncle Howdy with a punch and retains his championship. Wow. Uncle Howdy loses his first pay-per-view match. Great job. And the second match for the Wyatt Sicks, Dexter Lumis and Joe Gacy, after discarding of Ivar, got a title shot for the World Tag Team Championships against the team of Bad Bunny and R-Truth. After a 20-minute fight, yes, 20 minutes of this, R-Truth just kicks Dexter right in the face, and Joe Gacy is so exhausted and tired he can't break it up, even though he's right there looking at him. So R-Truth and Bad Bunny retain their championships, and the Wyatt Sicks have had a terrible night. After the disappointing SummerSlam, the Wyatt Sicks are back on Monday Night Raw. Eric Rowan is in a triple threat against Gunther and Omos, I guess a battle of giants, and Uncle Howdy is taking on the World Heavyweight Champion Damian Priest. Eric Rowan ends up picking a shocking win over Gunther and Omos. However, unfortunately, Uncle Howdy would take another L after getting beaten by the world champion. I mean, it's not that bad. He got beat by the world champion, but still another L for Uncle Howdy. So now we move on to SmackDown. Uncle Howdy is back, and he's taking on LA Knight. Asuka is taking on Nikki Cross, and Bray Wyatt's in a fatal four-way. Uncle Howdy ends up taking another L. Asuka defeats the women's champion, Nikki Cross, and Bray Wyatt picks up the win in the fatal four-way. And we fast forward to Payback. Uncle Howdy's back. He's been taking loss after loss, so I don't know why he got booked, but you know what? It's fine. So after simulating through Payback, Uncle Howdy once again loses to Seth Rollins, who Dexter Lumis and Joe Gacy end up defeating Imperium. Nikki Cross actually retains her women's championship against Asuka, kind of an upset. And most importantly, Bray Wyatt ends up becoming the new WWE champion. On Monday Night Raw, Uncle Howdy is back once again, taking on Drew McIntyre, and Uncle Howdy ends up winning. I know, what a shock. And on the next SmackDown, we simulate it, and Bayley ends up defeating Nikki Cross. Shit gets weird because Uncle Howdy apparently defeats Uncle Howdy. No, it's a shot to Adonis, but like Uncle Howdy and Uncle Howdy renders are on the screen. Oh, and Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso become the new WWE Tag Team Champions. I don't know why Jimmy Uso's still with Solo. And now the next pay-per-view, Fastlane. First off, the Wyatt Sicks end up taking on the New Day in a 6-man tag match, and the Wyatt Sicks actually pick up a win against the New Day. Unfortunately for Nikki Cross, she takes on Zelina Vega, and thanks to her goons backing her up, Zelina Vega becomes the new women's champion. And in the main event, Bray Wyatt's defending against Roman Reigns, who's got the entire bloodline. Bray Wyatt ends up losing the championship, unfortunately. So he got it, and then he lost it a month later. That kind of seems like WWE booking, to be honest. After winning against the New Day, the Wyatt Sicks get another shot at the Tag Team Championships. This is where stuff gets a bit more spooky. So the Wyatt Sicks come out, and Paul Heyman is in their corner. What? Is Paul Heyman a part of the Wyatt Sicks? And then for some reason, even stranger, Uncle Howdy's in the corner of Solo and Jimmy. Like, what is going on? And the Bloodline end up winning, and my game crashes. The game detects an error with this screenshot here. So after this, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa beat the shit out of Jimmy Uso, and the new Bloodline is formed. Jimmy Uso has just kind of been a straggler, so now that Solo Sikoa has reformed the group in his image, it's actually based now. On Raw, Eric Rowan challenges for the Intercontinental Championship against Dominic Mysterio and ends up winning the championship. The Intercontinental Championship is now in the hands of the Wyatt Sicks. However, things do take a dark turn as the Bloodline have declared all-out war on the Wyatt Sicks, and these two are destined to fight at War Games. The Wyatt Sicks versus the Bloodline in a War Games match to see which faction is the most dominant, and the loser leaves SmackDown, which means that the Wyatt Sicks, if they lose, they're gone, and the Bloodline will dominate the show. And at the Survivor Series, we're here to simulate what happens. Eric Rowan unfortunately loses the Intercontinental Championship back to Dominic Mysterio, holding it for a week, and that's it, which is fucked up and sad, but you know what? Dominic Mysterio is the face of the company. In the War Games match, the Wyatt Sicks, starting out by Bray Wyatt himself, take on the Bloodline, led by Jacob Fatu, who for some reason is in the void. I don't know what's going on here. The lighting is just... yeah. And after a hellacious War Games match, Tama Tonga knees Joe Gacy right in the head so hard that it costs him to lose. The Bloodline defeat the Wyatt Sicks at Survivor Series, and the Wyatt Sicks are now gone from SmackDown. So now the Bloodline run roughshod over the brand, and honestly, this is probably what would happen in real life. There's no way that the Bloodline would not go over the Wyatt Sicks. Sorry. So the Wyatt Sicks disappear for the rest of the year and are gone from Raw. But they return on the New Year's Raw. The Wyatt Sicks challenge for the World Tag Team Championships again, and guess what? They end up losing again. Uncle Howdy gets a rematch with Drew McIntyre, and Drew McIntyre beats Uncle Howdy. Oh my god, this group is just taking L after L. Hopefully it gets better for them in the Royal Rumble. Speaking of the Royal Rumble, it's time for it. In a Royal Rumble with 2 Bray Wyatts, 2 versions of Cody Rhodes, the Wyatt Sicks and the Bloodline all throughout, we were all expecting Uncle Howdy to come out at number 30, because why not? Uncle Howdy was supposed to be in this match, and Jacob Fatu comes out, stealing his number at number 30 and getting the shot. Even I made an appearance in the Royal Rumble. Of course, I didn't win, I got thrown out, but you know what? I made it to the final 5, so... the final 2 ended up being Ricochet and Jacob Fatu, and in the end, Jacob Fatu wins the Royal Rumble, going to WrestleMania by stealing Uncle Howdy's spot. Wow, that's pretty messed up. For Howdy, not for anyone else. We are officially on the road to WrestleMania. And on that road to WrestleMania, things are getting a little spicy. You see, with the controversy of Uncle Howdy being taken out by Jacob Fatu, Uncle Howdy is pissed off and angry at this, and wants a shot at Jacob Fatu at Chamber. Nick Aldis decides to cave in. The general managers come together and agree that Jacob Fatu and Uncle Howdy will fight one more time at the Elimination Chamber, but with a twist. Paul Heyman is the referee. You see, Paul Heyman has been getting bullied for the past few months by the new Bloodline, and Paul Heyman has just gone through the ringer. He's really sad and depressed about it. So now Paul Heyman has to make a choice. Will he help Uncle Howdy get his revenge, or will he help the Bloodline solidify their status at WrestleMania? Speaking of the Chamber match itself, and it ends up being Dexter Lumis as he takes on Bobby Lashley, Randy Orton, Cameron Grimes, Dominic Mysterio, the Intercontinental Champion, and then Tama Tonga of the Bloodline are in the Elimination Chamber. I don't know how it makes sense, but it does. Dominic's Intercontinental Championship on the line. The final 3 come down to Tama Tonga, Cameron Grimes, and Dexter Lumis. Cameron Grimes ends up hitting the double foot stomp to eliminate Dexter Lumis from the match, and then Tama Tonga defeats Cameron Grimes and becomes the new Intercontinental Champion. Just when you think the Wyatt Sicks are finally getting back on their feet, the Bloodline come in and ruin everything. Congratulations on Tama Tonga being the new Intercontinental Champion. But the main event, Jacob Fatu, Uncle Howdy, Paul Heyman as the referee, and the match had a lot of drama in it. Paul Heyman was being abused by Solo on the outside, and he told him to eject Joe Gacy out of the match, so Paul Heyman did. Hell, even Paul Heyman got physically abused in this match by Jacob Fatu. But in the end, after Jacob Fatu obliterates Uncle Howdy, Paul Heyman counts to 3. He was conflicted on what to do, but in the end, he counted the fall for the Bloodline as Jacob Fatu is now going to WrestleMania. Meanwhile, Uncle Howdy takes another L in the worst way possible by getting obliterated by Jacob Fatu. These strings of losses at Elimination Chamber started to cause a mutiny in the Wyatt Sicks. The group is starting to become fractured. And then 2 people come in and shake everything up. Alexa Bliss returns and attacks Nikki Cross, saying that she shouldn't be the top woman of this group and that Alexa Bliss is the key to the group's success. On the other side, Braun Strowman shows back up and says that he needs to lead the Wyatt Sicks because new leadership is required after Uncle Howdy has led the group failure after failure. Uncle Howdy needs to step aside and let Braun Strowman, a Wyatt family member, take over and guide this group into the future. So at WrestleMania, this is what's going to happen. Firstly, Alexa Bliss is going to fight Nikki Cross for the Women's Championship, and Braun Strowman and Uncle Howdy will fight to settle who is the leader of the Wyatt Sicks. In a hardcore Extreme Rules match, Alexa Bliss actually picks up the win against Nikki Cross. She defeats her and thus becoming the new Women's Champion, solidifying Alexa Bliss as the top woman in the Wyatt Sicks. But in the final match of this sim, Uncle Howdy, being accompanied by Gacy and Loomis, takes on Braun Strowman, who's accompanied by Eric Rowan. And an absolutely painful match because these 2 guys just kept fighting forever and it was kind of a slog. Braun Strowman looks like he's going to finish off Uncle Howdy once and for all, but Uncle Howdy catches him in a roll-up pin and pins him for the 3, and Braun Strowman accepts his fate in the Wyatt Sicks as a lackey to Uncle Howdy, and Uncle Howdy stands tall with the Wyatt Sicks fully united behind him and Alexa Bliss. So I decided to simulate after WrestleMania to see where the Wyatt Sicks would pick up, to see if they actually won any championships, and they succeeded. And guess what happened? Nothing. They didn't do jack squat. The only person that was able to accomplish anything really was Alexa Bliss, as she was the women's champion. Everybody else didn't do a damn thing. So basically, Uncle Howdy won his leadership back and led the group into complete irrelevancy and mediocrity.